The New York Knicks have taken down the Boston Celtics, so we are headed to our first Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years. The Knicks are back, baby. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine, joining me as always, Chris Nambu, here to talk about the Knicks winning in 6 games against the Celtics, heading to the Eastern Conference Finals to take on the Indiana Pacers. Where do the Celtics go from here? Can the Knicks go all the way to the finals? We're going to be discussing it all here. We'll also be taking a quick look at the big game 7 tomorrow between the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder. But before we get into it all, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Listen, my Celtics people, I'm sorry. I'm not here to trample on the clearly like soul-crushing loss that's gone on, but I can't help as an objective watcher of this. Again, if you all know, I'm a Bulls fan. I got no skin in the game. I'm just watching basketball, enjoying what I'm seeing. And listen, I can't help but just really join in on this party that the Knicks are having because this is a team that's just been, man, you guys have been without joy and like reassurance in a team and its performance and where it's going to go and how everything's going to turn out for decades, for half a century. So while I'm sad to see the Celtics go, I'm sad to see how it went out. I'm just happy for you guys, man. Just to see the celebrating in New York and to see all those happy faces, all the rioting, all the typical stuff you'd expect from the degenerates of New York City. It's a happy sight, man. I can't help it. Just kind of join in a little bit and just kind of bask in it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately I had to work last night, so I'm super disappointed that I didn't get to be a part of all the riding and all the craziness over there on Seventh Avenue. But obviously, seeing all the videos now, it's good to see. It just shows the impact. I mean, it wasn't far off that after game one when we won the game, and then obviously game two as well, and then game four when we were back in the garden, and that's just the way it goes. And the Knicks celebrating everything like we've won the NBA title, and that just shows the pain that we've gone through and how great it is to have a team that can actually win basketball games in the postseason, and we've gotten to a level that I mean, I guess a generation of Knicks fans have not seen, which is kind of pretty insane to think of. But I mean, just pure joy. Obviously, I don't want to hear anything from Celtics fans. Hey, you beat us at injured. We were up 3-1 when you guys had everyone on the floor. Let's not forget that we won 3 games with all of Boston out there on the floor. Yeah, maybe they weren't playing their best, but they were all there. So I think that excuse can fall a little bit flat. But especially after like last night, after the blowout in game five, I don't think anyone was expecting what we saw last night. I don't think anyone was pretty sure a lot of Celtics fans were feeling pretty good about their chances of getting it back to game seven, and a lot of Knicks fans were fearing the worst. And then the Knicks just came out with an aggressive attitude. Cat, I think, really set the tone. I mean, I was thinking going into game five, almost all series, what are we going to see first? A Karl Anthony Towns game where he gets into stupid foul trouble, or a Karl Anthony Towns game where he really comes out, sets the tone, and has a big scoring performance? Game five, we got the stupid foul trouble. Really dumb fouls to get himself a three in the first half. Obviously, then got had to sit in some bench. And then, of course, last night he was really the tone setter. He was the guy. He came out with that aggressive attitude, attacking the paint, playing smart. Other than that stupid kick out and that three, I don't know what he was doing there. But outside of that, Cat was really the tone setter for the entire team to start that game. He got us on the right track, and everyone just kind of fed off him from there. And it was just a beautiful thing to watch. And Cat, we're gonna need to see more from him, but just on last night was exactly why we got him in here and exactly what we need to see more of in the Pacer series. But I gotta talk Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride, my God, that guy last night, that chase down block, that chase down
Mm,
swat,
mm.
that was the moment I believed. That was the moment where I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be the Knicks night. And like obviously that transition into the heart and one play off of that, like that was just a beautiful sight to watch. And watching him perform the way he did, like getting that production, like we saw in game six for the Nuggets getting production from Julian Strother. Like that was the same sort of feeling for the Knicks. Like if we can get bench production, it just changes everything for us.
Listen, I start to believe every time the ball touches his hand on the perimeter. I mean, that was in succession of him hitting a three with, I forget if it was Drew Holiday or Jaylen Brown, directly in his eyes. And just to like talk in his game real quick, just the evolution of him as a player and becoming a really reliable off-ball shooter. Been one of the more reliable shooters for the Knicks, shooting 40% in the playoffs this season. But it feels like he's shooting 80 because every time the Knicks need a bucket and no one is scoring and the ball touches his hands on the perimeter, I mean, he's sinking it. And the ways that he's provided a spark off the bench, the way that he's continued to provide elite defense, and that chase that, like, we know his on-ball defense, we know he can be a ball hawk. I was not ready for that chase down block, man. I really was not. I mean, he's an athletic guy. He's got, a quick jump, but man, he was such an electric part of last night, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the Celtics or the Knicks, and I want to comment on what you said earlier about like how confident the Knicks may have been feeling, and the lack of confidence that the fans may have been feeling in them going into game 5, going to game 6. And I think it's such a microcosm of the whole season. And the Knicks have been such an interesting team all season because it's been such a roller coaster and it's been such an inconsistent team. I mean, you go back to Mikal Bridges at the beginning of the season, inconsistent shooter. And then you go to Cat, is he, what kind of defense does he bring to the table? They don't have Mitchell Robinson. What kind of defense as a team can they put together? Mikal Bridges also on the defensive end. There's just so many inconsistencies throughout the season in how this team played and how each player was performing, and all of it coming together. Like you'd have Anunoby going, and then you don't have Bridges going. You have Jalen Brunson going, but you don't have Cat going. You just never had everything come together. And the way that it came together last night, I don't know if is that just the peak? Is that what this team is supposed to be, and they can actually like touch that, achieve that, and realize that on a maybe not a nightly basis, but on a series-wide basis, can they achieve that? And I think it gives you a lot of hope that maybe that was the direction. This is a team that we have to realize came together last year. Anunoby's only been with the team, a year and a couple months. Like realistically, this is still a squad that is getting used to each other. And the Celtics, a bona fide champion, a team that sadly, I think could have been a dynasty type of team if Tatum doesn't get hurt, if they perform to their level this series. That team was together for years. They had years to figure out their tendencies. They had years to figure out how they, work together chemistry wise. This Knicks team is just figuring it out. So if they're just scratching the surface and finally shedding off some of that inconsistency they had all season, and it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And like obviously, I think this question was like posed to Thibodeau last night. It was like that the best performance of the playoffs, and like he said, yeah, he thinks it was, and like he's right. That was the peak. Like you said, that was the peak. That's the question now. Is like how often can we get back to that? Because like it's not easy to have all four of Brunson, Cat, OG, and Bridges all score 20 points. Bridges obviously doing it. Bridges and Brunson both doing it like super efficiently, and obviously OG was kind of his field goal percentage is definitely been a little bit worrying in these playoffs. He's not been very efficient. He can go ice cold, but then he can also hit up big shots. And we've seen him when he's hitting a step back three, like that's a beautiful sight. When you see an OG hit step back threes, like that's pretty damn good. And then obviously it works so well. And then obviously last night, of course, Josh Hart also had a triple double there, and like that was a huge. Like Josh Hart just brings so much to this team. And I mean, like we said, like at game 5, like we got blown out in a game where Josh Hart hit 5 triples and Mitchell Robinson was 100% from the free throw line. So like those kind of stats, like to think we got blown out. We didn't just lose the game, we got blown out in a game where that happened. You're kind of like, oh damn, did we just really miss our chance? Like, is that ever going to happen again? Where Josh Hart hits 5 triples and Robinson goes 100% from the line? And obviously they bounced back in a great way. And now we get to look back on Jalen Brunson waving at the jumbotron as literally like saying goodbye to the Celtics. We won't be coming back, and like the obviously the feeling of Jalen Brown fouling out by fouling Jalen Brunson, little things like that. That was just a sign of how things were going. That was just last night was the night for the Knicks. They deserve that. They own that. And to see us like putting a beat down and eliminating Boston after it was done to us at home in Game 7 by the Pacers last year,
Mhm.
that was just it was a really nice turn. And I think it's a sign of the growth of this side.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I want to touch on as well, just looking back on this series, looking back on, how they performed overall in the playoffs so far. Defensively, I think one of the biggest questions we had for the Knicks is how much is Cat going to get hunted? How much is Brunson going to get hunted? How much are both of them going to get hunted in the pick and roll? And we've seen Tibbs try a lot of drop for Cat, and he's just never been able to really fully figure it out and be a good drop defender. And we've seen Brunson get hunted throughout his career. Obviously, with his physical stature, not a elite defender, not a great impact defender. But the way that Tibbs has really leaned in on switching and the way that Brunson has held up, the way that Cat has really moved on the perimeter, I I mean, maybe shocked isn't the word. They're elite athletes, and to step up in the moment of the playoffs, you see it all the time. But the way that they've done it, really, especially against the level of competition the Celtics bring, I think it's been nothing short of spectacular. Because that I feel like was the weakest link on the defensive end of that. I thought everyone else was going to rise, but I wasn't sure about them, and they've really held up. Like Brunson has been no cakewalk. Nobody switched on to Brunson and had an easy bucket. You score over him, sure, but he's going to make you score over him. You're not going to back him down. You're not going to shake him loose. You're not getting easy buckets at the rim. And nobody's really on the Celtics were really taking advantage of that. How often do we see Brown try to post him up and, not really get much out of it? And that was just the way that they allowed the Celtics to get into some of their bad habits by just mismatch hunting, not getting into offense, and then getting inefficient one-on-one possessions like that. And that's something that changes the level of defense that this team can play.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like just like as simple as it is, like even just like look at Luka Doncic and then look at Jalen Brunson and look at like the defensive effort that
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Brunson gives compared to Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic just lets guys go by him. Like Jalen Brunson could easily do that too, and no one, most people probably wouldn't bat an eye for like what he does as our offensive engine. And but no, he bodies up. He like does whatever he can. Yeah, he's not got the size. Yeah, maybe he doesn't have the athleticism as a defender, but he's going to do everything he possibly can to make it difficult for whoever he's guarding, and that's all you can ask for a guy like Jalen Brunson. That's all you can ask for a guy who's limited as a defender and who really isn't like known for playing defense. It's just go out there and do it, give an honest effort, and that's what he brings, and that's huge for the Knicks as a defensive unit. They really need that, and it's just great to see. And that's why like Jalen Brunson, that's why the guy he's the guy. He's the guy you want to see succeeding because he's just such an honest performer on both ends of the floor. He does everything that he possibly can. Works so hard. You know how hard he works in his game. He's the guy that you want to believe in. That's why I'm so happy he's a Knick.
Yeah. I want to bring up some negative headlines throughout the season for the Knicks and see if some of these have been answered in this series alone. One that I think we have answered here. This is a direct headline. I want to say it's from the New York Post. Knicks glaring failure to beat the best predicted spells playoff disaster. We don't have to say their record against the best teams in the league, aka the Cavs, aka the Celtics, aka OKC. But that was the biggest concern. Now look where they are. Knicks, contenders or pretenders. I don't think they're pretending anymore. Knicks, defensive struggles and late game collapses. It's been late game rising all series long. Mikal Bridges, disappointment this season. Not that guy. Let's talk about him. Has your faith been restored in this guy?
Absolutely. Especially because like he doesn't have to be that guy. At the end of the day, he's effectively our third option, possibly our fourth option. Depends. Like him and OG kind of almost like trade off a little bit, of like who's like the third option on any given night. But he has played in moments in this series. He's come alive in moments in this series, and that's what we need from him. That's what his kind of role is, to play great defense, hit some shots, come alive in moments. That's exactly what he did. Did it in game one. That first defensive play in overtime. Like no one else on the floor is making that play. His quickness and length on the defensive end got that play that got us to the OG slam. Then in game two, he was terrible all game. But Brunson goes out, the ball's in his hands. Tibbs goes, right, you go do your thing. He comes up with 14 points in the fourth quarter. That's huge. That gets us back in the game. That allows us to get that win. Then obviously, of course, last night, super efficient, making the shots. He was superb. And if we're getting great Mikal Bridges offense in 3 games of every series, and yet maybe he can be a bit hit and miss in others, but if he can be like that level of difference maker in 3 games, that's more than worth it.
Yeah, and I think what I noticed the most is how he picked his spots. And there'd be certain moments in the game where he's doing all the little things. I mean, he's attacking the boards, he's cleaning up the glass, getting nice second chance opportunities. But then when the game is flowing, like the game, you could see moments where the game flowed to him in that third quarter, I believe it was in game two, where he just started to hit shots. And the game just flowed to him. Brunson's on the floor with him, but he's not looking to defer. And I feel like that's a team chemistry thing that comes obviously with their time together back in Nova, their time together over the course of the season. Where if Bridges has it going, like he looks confident. He's pulling up from three. He's getting a screen. He's getting to his mid range game. Like even some of the turnaround mid range shots he was hitting, like that looked like peak Nets kind of Mikal Bridges, where he's the number one option. And for him to like turn that on and then know when to turn it off and not to be pressing for that shot at times where he was this season. And then there are opposite times this season where he was just kind of like relegated as a off ball shooter. Let's see if we can just get him going as a shooter. He's not Klay Thompson. He's not that type of guy to do that as well. The way that he's been able to find his flow within this series in that way, like he's not going to be the number two option all season long. Like you need him to be that situational scorer. And I think that's fit in perfectly. So I had no problems when there a couple quarters here and there where maybe he doesn't score a basket, but what is he doing on the other end? Is he being that elite on-ball defender? Yeah. Is he making plays off the ball? Yeah. 2 game winning off-ball defensive plays. And that's the kind of guy that you traded 5 first-round picks for. So again, it's not found money. Like you paid a hefty price for this guy, paid a hefty price for OG Anunoby, and these 2 wings, man, have really, really contributed in an amazing way. They would not be here without them. So the they're really getting their money's worth, so to speak.
Yeah, like we paid our hefty price, and what has it gotten us? It's gotten us to a level we haven't been in 25 years. So yeah, I think it was worth it.
Um, I want to point out too, last season, Brunson hurt his shooting wrist, if I remember correctly, or his
Hmm.
shooting thumb, right? And maybe this kind of bleeds into our conversation with them and the Pacers. There, I feel like there's a consistency to Brunson. We haven't seen him explode yet for a crazy game. He hasn't had a crazy series yet,
Um,
but he's been
did,
consistent.
did you not watch Game 4?
I For the whole series, he hasn't put together a whole series. I mean, but this is in the
Okay.
context. This is in the context of he's going against the Celtics defense. He's going against Derek White. He's going against Drew Holiday. He's getting switched on by Jalen Brown. He's going against, I still think, the best defense outside of OKC in the league. So looking forward to the Pacers. He was not healthy when he faced them previously. How are we looking to how he might elevate his game against this team, and how are you generally feeling about this upcoming series? Pacers team who you have some bad memories of.
The Knicks full stop were not healthy in that series. Let's not
Yeah.
forget this series last year. We had no Randall whatsoever in this series. We had no Bogdanovich, who had actually been really great for us off the bench in that first series against Philly before he got hurt. Mitchell Robinson down in game one. OG down in game two when we were 2-0 up in this series, and OG goes out after having arguably his best game ever in that game two when he dropped 40. Then we had Brunson got hurt. Then Josh Hart got hurt. They were both still out on the floor, but they were not at 100%. So that gives you faith that even though I absolutely believe that the Pacers are also a better team this year, the Knicks are actually healthy going into this series now. Fingers crossed it's going to stay that way, and we actually get to see an honest look of Indiana versus the Knicks with both teams being healthy, and we get to see who the best is. But I mean, just initial thoughts on it. I mean, I think everyone's kind of saying this. It does really feel like a series that could go 7 games.
Yeah. Yeah. And just big picture perspective. Looking at both of these teams, when is the last time that they've even been here. The Knicks haven't been to the finals since 1999.
The
They've
last
won
time,
it.
you know when the last time was here? The last time the Knicks were in the Eastern Conference Finals, 2000.
Yeah,
We played,
2000.
we played, we played against the Pacers.
And the Pacers only went to the finals once that year, and they lost to the Kobe Shaq Lakers.
Those
This
bums, yeah.
So both these teams are like on the precipice of making history, and they've already made history just making it back here for those teams. Um, and it is crazy to, again, we talked about the Knicks and the season they've had up and down. The Pacers themselves, they had such an up and down season. Halliburton starting off the season just not right. Nemhard getting hurt, and Pacers kind of just like faded away in our view of the whole landscape of the NBA. Started to think of them as kind of a one-hit wonder. I mean, I started to feel like I don't know how many people talked about it, but it kind of felt a little bit like the Hawks run to the Eastern Conference Finals, and was this team just going to become that flash in the pan? And the way that they came out into this new year and established themselves defensively, Halliburton getting back into his flow, and this team getting back to their identity, their defensive identity, their offensive identity, moving the ball around. I mean, they've got six guys averaging double digits. No other team in the playoffs is doing that. And the way that they move the ball, the way that they continue to have such great effort on both ends of the floor, it's just relentless. And I think that's one thing that's going to be really interesting to watch throughout the series. Something to watch is the Knicks. We know their issues with depth and their unwillingness to extend their bench for some reasonable reasons. And the Pacers just complete opposite. They're just going to be, scoring by committee, defense by committee, and the playoff risers they have. Do you think that's going to be a factor in this series? And will the Knicks, if this does go to 7 games, are they going to be able to keep up and stay healthy and stay energetic against this Pacers team that was top 5 in pace? I want to say 7th, at least, at the end of the season. And the Knicks, who were among the bottom of the league.
Yeah, I mean that's where you kind of look at and you think that's where this maybe favors Indiana. Like this is what Indiana do. This is what they well they it was kind of easier to do it to the Bucks because the Bucks were so depleted, but this is what they did to the Cavs. They just ran them out the gym. They just say we are going to exhaust you. We are not going to give you anything. We are going to run you off the floor and make you feel you're gonna play our game. That's the only time that there was only one game of that series where the Cavs kind of played their game and not the Pacers game, and that was the only game that the Cavs ended up winning. This is the Pacers style. They're such a well coached team. They're all so impactful, so energetic. They're all clearly like they all know their roles. They're a legit 8-man rotation that can often spread out to even a 9 or 10-man rotation. They've 4 of their 5 starters are shooting 44% or better from deep. I'm gonna most likely we'll see Neesmith and Nemhard kind of trade off guarding Jalen Brunson. That's gonna be so tough for Brunson to deal with. So that's when we're gonna need other guys to be able to hit their shots when Brunson has to get off ball. And you just kind of wonder like what we saw against the Pistons in round one. The Knicks obviously had to play super physical there, and they came through that. They showed that. The Celtics in a similar way, like they had to play hard and like they went through it. And like you're kind of wondering now is like, did that set the Knicks up to be able to deal with the Pacers, or has that exhausted them already so much that they're going to have to deal with the Pacers is just going to be too much for them? That's maybe where this series could come down to. Do the Knicks have enough energy left after going through the Pistons, after going through the Celtics, to be able to keep up with this Pacers team? And can I guess and on the flip side, can the Pacers continue to shoot this efficiently from deep? Outside, we know they're going to get their fast break opportunities. We know they're gonna play fast. They're gonna move the ball. But I think the shooting element is maybe where the Knicks could maybe take advantage.
That is a big swing point because I think that if I'm the Pacers, I'm looking at the Knicks and I'm looking at the size, I'm looking at the rebounding, and I know that's a weakness. The Knicks are gonna have an advantage to rebound the ball. They're gonna have an advantage in the paint, and you're gonna want to do everything you can to keep Cat out of the paint, to keep Brunson from getting to his drives, keep Hart out of the paint. And if the Pacers can successfully, force Knicks to take jump shots, force them to shoot from the perimeter, and then get to their transition game. That's where things can get scary. We looked at the Knicks in games 3 to 5. They gave up 52 transition possessions, 80 points on those for 1.54 points per possession. Obviously, they cleaned things up to finish out the series. But we've seen points where if teams are shooting a lot of jump shots, Knicks get a little tired, that transition defense can fall apart at times.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be an inconsistency that stays fixed going into the series because the Pacers they are going to jump all over that. And I think that's going to be priority number one. But from that light, I think the Knicks need to use their size. I think that's talking about Knicks advantages here. I think that's the major advantages they have. The fact that they were able to control the boards in a major way. The fact that Cat was able to be, I mean, maybe dominant's not the word. I think there's a lot of sharing with the offensive load in a good way. But when he needed to play in the post to be an aggressive driver, I think Cat's driving game has been excellent to see. Like he's one of the most important pieces there to put pressure on the rim. And especially when you think about guys on the perimeter, if you can pull out Miles Turner, you can force him to get mobile. That's going to be a big piece. But him attacking the rim, Mitchell Robinson, if you can keep him in the game, if he doesn't become a weak point for the Pacers to play off of him defensively, if you can still use him to use that size, because he's been such an X factor this whole series. But I think that the size is going to play a major role into if the Knicks are able to overpower them on the boards, just get more possessions on their side and slow the game down, muck everything up, get efficient shots at the rim, rebound the ball, second chances, and get back to a set defense. That's going to be a big part of the Knicks breaking up the Pacers' flow and controlling the flow of the game.
Yeah, and then like we're just gonna have to be like obviously having Mitch in there is going to be important for offensive boards. Like the Knicks have no choice; they're going to have to be more efficient than they were against the Celtics. If they're just throwing up bricks consistently against this Pacers team, they're gonna get absolutely destroyed. They're gonna have to shoot much better from the field. They're gonna have to, yeah, like you said, like get Cat inside. Let's keep getting to the line. Let's do like little things like that. That's gonna be important in slowing down Indiana because that's what you absolutely have to do. If you try and go like bucket for bucket with Indiana, no, that is not gonna work out for the Knicks. If that's the way this series goes, this could be over quickly for the Pacers. That's exactly what they want. As much as like I've loved like Cat, and I think that he kind of made that point like throughout the Celtics series. It was kind of made a point of how important it was for him to attack inside, to get to the line, to get on the glass, rather than be out on the perimeter and hitting threes. I mean, we're gonna need to see a little bit more from deep from Cat. I think he's not
Mm-hmm.
really been shooting great, especially in that last series. It was really bad. He went 3 and 19
Yep.
for the whole series. I think he's going to at least need to take more, and obviously we 100% need him to make more. That can be a little difference maker. It's got to be he's able to attack the closeout because they're so worried about him taking that 3 point shot. That's kind of we need to see a little bit more of that in this series. And Cat was great against Boston. Like game two, he was 9 of 16 from the field. Game four, he was 11 of 15. He had some really great games. He was super important on the boards. He had a couple of great putback shots that were crucial in some of these wins. So I'm not like it's not like he has to completely go away from that, but we need to get back to the little bit more of the balance of him shooting and making 3 point shots as well as attacking inside for sure.
Yeah. The spacing is gonna be very important too. Like there's gonna be ebb and flow to this game. And if the Pacers get back to the zone, like number one, I think Cat needs to be ready to be a playmaker here.
Hmm.
Not really had to be can he play in the middle of the floor? And going back to that point about him playing the post real quick, that one thing I do worry about, and I think anyone who's watched Cat over the years is if one easy tactic for the other team to get Cat out of a game is here's a smaller player, go to the post.
Hmm.
Let's see if you don't foul 3 out of the 5 times that you try to do that over the course of this game.
Yep.
And he's done better. He's done better this playoffs to stay out of foul trouble better than years past. But it's still a button to press, and it's still something that scares me a bit if you are relying on him to do too much. There's only so many possessions in the post before you get afraid of him, overdoing it and getting early foul trouble. That would be disastrous. Um, but to your point on shooting, that's going to be key. Like they need to be able to If the Pacers get to zone and they're just scared to shoot and they're scared to attack the gaps and they just start hucking up late possession shots, that's not going to be good. That's going to be where the Pacers are going to start to thrive, and we've seen them do that against the Cavs. We've seen the Cavs shooters disappear. All of a sudden, the best 3-point shooting team in the league disappear. And one thing I'm a little afraid of is Mitchell Robinson. Like, is he going to be as dominant as you need him to be on the boards? I think so. But because on the other end, defensively, like they are going to take full advantage of that. They are going to completely ignore him. The way that Tibbs is going to keep Mitch involved on the offense to keep him from being a liability is going to be huge. So I'm interested to see how continues to use him and if that becomes a problem.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I have huge respect for Rick Carlisle as a head coach, so maybe he can figure it out. But the fact that Mitch was as impactful as he was against a team like Boston, I'd like to think he can also kind of have
Yeah.
fill that same role against Indiana. But I guess like little moments might come up, like do Indiana go to the hack and Mitch kind of tactic and see what that does to New York and see what that does to Mitch's time on the floor. But like his offensive rebounding is so important for the Knicks, and like that's all he's really there for. Set the odd screen and get offensive boards. That's literally it. He doesn't even look at the basket when he gets his offensive boards. He doesn't do any putbacks, anything like that. He gets the rebound, throws it back out. That's all. That's all he does. Never ever looks at the basket. So hopefully he can have that same sort of impact because I mean, need it. Like we saw Bridges or not Bridges, sorry, McBride struggle in that first series against the Pistons. Obviously, they didn't. It was a bit uncomfortable with the size that he was going up against. Then obviously he was great against Boston. We are going to need him to be great again against Indiana. Like we need to have at least like we said, Mitch and McBride. We need to have at least a legitimate 7-man rotation to uh, to just keep up and kind of keep the energy going against this Pacers team because like as great as we know, like when Bridges the Iron Man and OG's gonna play the big minutes, everyone's gonna play big minutes. Like we need some production from the bench or else it's just not possible to keep up with this Pacers team.
No, that's true. And the impacts, except for Robinson, you can put that into words. You can also put it into numbers. The Knicks were 30 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor. That is by far best impact on the floor throughout the playoffs this season. And you see it on the floor. If you have not seen that I think it was 7 or 11 second possession where Mitch in transition guards all 5 players. You saw that, you remember that, and ends in a steal from the corner. He literally ran from one end of the arc to the other, rotating to every Celtics player, and ends up with a steal on Jaylen Brown. And that is the kind of effort that just inspires this defense. And I think you need that against Pacers.
That was like the
Um,
most beautiful play I've ever seen. That was just like the fact that we scored on the next possession after, like that was just it was perfection.
um, question for the Pacers. So like they obviously get 6 guys averaging double digits, team averaging 117.7 points per game here. How do you slow them down? Do you just try and get Halliburton, a guy who's, in his moments when you can tell the other team's just trying to let him be a scorer, here you be the guy. He's shown up,
Yeah.
especially late in games. How do you balance that? How do you slow him down? Or maybe do you let him try to be a go-to scorer? You try to shut down Nemhard, who's been such an X factor, and Neesmith, who's really evolved into a really important X factor for them as a shot creator. Um, who do you hone in on? What do you match up with? Do you put both your wings on Nemhard and Siakam? Where do you want OG, your best defender?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, Nemhard is like arguably the guy that's like more worried. He's that dick that we remember from hitting that game winner in game three last year. Like that was just an absolute miracle shot that he hit, and that was kind of his like welcome, the welcome. I'm legit. Like that was kind of that moment for him. So I mean, I think it's tough. I feel like it could be a feeler out in game one. I think we could see different looks kind of switching between like having Bridges on Halliburton and having OG on Halliburton, and then maybe it might be more likely that OG ends up on Siakam. I feel like that might be a little bit more likely because I think OG is obviously that little bit stronger against the size of Siakam. Bridges is obviously a little bit light. We've seen him we kind of saw moments of get maybe a little bit bullied by the likes of like Tatum and Brown in that last round. So I feel like we're gonna need to rely on Bridges' defense a lot in this series, and it's just gonna be a question of who's kind of the real threat? Like, do you play like is Halliburton like that Jokic type where you're kind of like, okay, yeah, you just do all the scoring and we're just not going to let you play make, and that's going to be our tactic. Like we've seen that happen a lot. That's that's something that teams kind of try a lot when they're playing against the Denver Nuggets, and like it's had pretty decent success, I think. I don't know if that's going to work on a guy like Halliburton. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what tactics Tibbs rolls out. And like before this playoff run, I was like, this Tibbs is maybe coaching for his job, but I think he showed the level of coach he is, especially in that Celtics series. He showed his understanding of the game, his ability to make adjustments. So I believe he will have the right formula out there. It's just going to be very interesting. Like I said, I think game one could be one where they kind of throw a lot of different looks and kind of feel it out and see what works.
Yeah. And if they keep switching, I think you're facing a whole different playmaker than, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum.
Mhm.
Like Tyrese Halliburton, he looks healthy, he looks quick, he looks fast. He's going to blow by that. If you put Mitch on the perimeter, if you put Cat on the perimeter, they're getting blown by. And I think that's going to be a very different cover than it is when you're doing it with the Celtics. A lot more dynamic. You may need to blitz at times. May need to show doubles early, but then you get in rotation. Pacers know how to score. Pacers know how to move the ball. Pacers know how to find the open guy, and it's the guys like Nemhard who love attacking a scrambling defense. They love that opportunistic offense, and they take advantage of that 9 times out of 10. Do you kind of mess with the lineups a little bit? Do you start to throw like a Josh Hart on a Siakam or a Josh Hart on a
Yeah.
Miles Turner to get an easier switch? Things like that. And I look forward to like how Tibbs uses that because he's got very versatile defenders, and I think this is another proving ground for Cat. Can he stay on the floor? Can he be a productive defender? But what's our? I know your prediction. I think I know my prediction too, and it's tough to say because both these teams match up so differently. They're such foils, and I think we know both about the inconsistencies the Knicks can show. What are you going with? You say 7?
I do think seven, but screw it. Let's go Knicks and six.
I think I gotta play the other side. I think the energy is gonna take. I think that Pacers get this in 7. I think Knicks gonna have their big moments. They're going to have the times where the size and the rebounding and just the individual greatness of Brunson gets him a game here and there. But I think the Pacers keep coming. I'm worried about the way that they're going to stretch out this defense and force the Knicks to be a shooting team. And in 7 games, I think that energy takes over.
This sounds crazy, but I almost hope you're wrong, and I hope it's the Pacers in six. Because I swear to God, if we lose in a second straight year in a game seven at MSG to the Pacers, I don't
You'd
know if
rather
there's.
lose at 6.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's recovering from that. You know that'd be tough. But yeah, I think it's going to be kind of similar to last year. I think we're going to see probably some close games, but I think we could also see the Pacers. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if the Pacers blew out the Knicks on one or two occasions either. Like, I think that's just the way the Pacers play. You can't rule that out, but I do believe that the Knicks, they'll be better prepared than both the Cavs and the Bucks were. I think we will definitely challenge them more than they've been challenged so far in these playoffs, and I just think. I feel like the Knicks are just in a good moment right now, and I'm loving what I'm seeing on the defensive end from like the impact that Mitch is having. We know we're getting Josh Hart and Bridges and OG have just been so impactful. I think we're going to see a healthy Knicks. An unhealthy Knicks took this Pacers team to 7 last year, and I'm believing that a healthy Knicks is going to beat them this year. But before we get on to the big game seven, do you want to talk a little bit about the Celtics? Where do
Yeah,
they go from here?
there's so much noise about what's going to happen, and it's honestly depressing. It's sad to go
Hmm.
from, our conversations about, the challenges that the Celtics have to becoming a generational team to now talking about are they going to blow it up? That like the whiplash from that it's awful. It's terrible. And I hope Tatum can make a good full recovery. Um, a lot of people trying to make comparisons to KD, but every athlete's different. KD got that injury when he was younger. This is also not his jumping foot, as some people may make comparisons to, but that also might not matter. Like only time will tell if Jason Tatum is going to make a full recovery, and we all hope he does. Um, I think this team was already going to make really tough decisions. It felt like them keeping everyone around was for at least just another year to go for it this season. And now that that's a wash, Al Horford's going to be 39 by the time that Tatum comes back. Drew Holiday is coming off a pretty unimpressive season.
Mhm. Of
All while
injuries.
Pritchard's on the rise. You got some guys on the bench who you're looking to maybe to fill in and take over the next spot. I wonder who's going to be the one to go, especially with KP and this mysterious illness. Still don't know what's going on with that. Where where do we go with that? Do we think that they really hit a reset button, or is this just let's get under the second apron?
It feels like in my mind I'm predicting like soft reset, as in like I think some people are kind of talking about, oh, they're gonna try and move off like Brown or something. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that would
That's the
be
biggest question. Let's address that first. Is what like it's unlikely, but what is the theoretical, like without even naming names or like certain draft pick or team, like what is the package that's like, okay, that makes sense for the Celtics. What would
how
even
the
make
hell
sense?
do you trade his contract? How the hell do you trade a $300 million contract? Like I don't even like how many assets would they
Giannis?
have to get back in return for like to like
Giannis?
work money wise? Yeah, I mean that's the fear. Everyone like someone said that in work last night. They go, okay, Celtics are out. Let's just hope they don't get Giannis now. Like that's the fear that people have. Like don't get me wrong. Like Boston could pull a 180 and still be like super aggressive this year and end up like trying to do something a little bit different and maybe like yeah maybe a move like Brown for a Giannis or something like that. Like that I can't rule it out because I feel like Boston are this bold team. That's the way Boston are. Boston are always going for it. Boston are always trying to win. You very rarely see Boston going through like legitimate rebuilds. You don't see them go 3, 4, 5 years without like having a team worthy of the playoffs. Like that just doesn't happen in Boston. So I mean, you can't rule it out. But I just think it'd be so difficult to trade a Jaylen Brown contract, and it'd be really tough to break up that core after winning a
Yeah.
title, and then like obviously you can make the argument that injury was the only reason they weren't able to go and do it again.
And
I
how
think it would be really
demoralizing would
tough to
that be to
break it up.
Tatum? How
Ah,
demor
yeah,
like
yeah.
obviously like business is business and like if it's the best move you make it, but like how demoralizing would that be to do to your star player like he's recovering from an Achilles injury and then you're gonna have to break up part of the team, but you break up the core, like that would be a lot. And have to be so much that goes into that move. But I think a move like a Giannis move would be the only thing that I feel like they would even consider.
Yeah.
Do they get a legitimate superstar back? And then at that point, like Giannis would have to be asking for it. He'd have to be
Mhm.
asking to get out. And he's not done that. He said he's open and every star is open. I don't interpret that as anything. I still think at the end of the day, Giannis stays put. But I think people should chill about the Brown talk because I think it would be such a hefty move. There's no way for the Spurs to give them their pick. There's no pick outside of, the top five even with other picks that would even interest the Celtics unless they were also getting back a star. Like it's just not going to happen. The
No,
more
no.
realistic ones are Drew, KP. Their most valuable asset right now is probably Derek White. But do you want to give that up? Like
I think he stays put.
he's good.
I
Not
think
getting anything
it's
back is good.
yeah. I think it's obviously Tatum's gonna be out for next year, but I think Tatum, Brown, Derek White, Pritchard. That's kind of the core they're gonna build around for the next era of the Celtics. I think Horford. I don't think they can afford to bring him back, even though although he said apparently that he's going to play even if Boston don't bring him back. But Al, remember the last time you tried to play outside of Boston? That was pretty ugly. So
There's something about Boston that keeps him
so
young, man.
yeah, so maybe don't do that. So and then like KP's obviously he's on an expiring $30 million deal. Like that's pretty easy, I guess, to trade. I think teams are always willing to take on expiring money. Then and then Drew. and then maybe Hauser. Those are like that. I think the four that people are kind of looking at is Horford, Hauser, Porzingis, Holiday as like the four pieces that they could move on from because they would have by far the biggest wage bill ever in NBA history next year if they were to keep
Yeah.
everyone. And knowing that Tatum is going to be out, I really wouldn't be surprised at all if we see like three of that four gone this summer.
So here's the other option, and I think that this one is a little more likely. If the Celtics are like, all right, business wise, we can't keep all these guys, are they still going to be effective 2 years from now when we're trying to win another title? So let's just save some money. We just can't. We literally can't afford $500 million. $500 million. So let's cut some fat here. Get rid of those guys. You get rid of your role. You get rid of Hauser. You start playing all your young guys. Do they enter a Warriors like territory where maybe they get into the lottery next season? Could they possibly be that bad? If you strip everything down to those guys you mentioned, just White, Brown, Pritchard, can they tank? Are they bad enough to tank?
Nah, it's
Missoula
tough.
can't tank,
Nah, I don't think
right?
that they wouldn't try to. I think it could maybe that idea, how it sometimes happens where like a star player gets hurt and then somehow the next year other guys start to get hurt. Like what if like Brown picks up like an ankle injury that keeps him out for 2 months, or White picks up an injury that keeps him out for a couple of months. Maybe in that sort of realm, they could enter into like we saw this year, like Dallas Mavericks sort of
Yeah.
territory. Like that, I wouldn't rule that out. But I think this Boston team could still be like competitive. They could still like if Boston without Tatum next year and say without Horford, Porzingis, Holiday. Let's not forget they're going to get some pieces back for those guys. These are trades we're talking about, so they're going to get some pieces back. And with Brown and White still there and Pritchard coming off the bench, like it wouldn't be shocking if they were still a top six seed next year.
I think so.
Like,
That I feel like that's their floor.
yeah,
They're at least a playing team. They're not getting in the lottery. Missoula's too much of a psycho. These guys are all in their primes. You know, nobody's gonna be willing to soft tank here, and I don't think they're bad enough to do that.
you
Even
mean
if,
and they have their pick next year, do they?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think so. Another suggestion I was just trying to get a little bit younger. I think that makes sense. Like, who can you turn? Like, who could you get in return for like a Drew Holiday? Could you get like another good young like defensive guard? And then like, can you get like another guy for like someone for KP? Just another like pretty like a legitimate kind of rim protector, like little things like that. It's just kind of it's. I think it's smart to just try and get a little bit younger so that when Tatum comes back, which we all hope he does, and we all kind of expect he does. He's only I think what Tatum's 27, right? So obviously age still on his side. Apparently getting the surgery right after the injury happened. That's apparently good for the recovery as well, which is big. So hopefully he's back, maybe even by the end of next year. Won't rule it out, if not the following year. And then you hope that they have a legitimate core to make another push at going for titles again. And you're gonna have to get a little bit younger to have that.
yeah, and maybe that's like a late first round pick this year or something like that. You're trading for a late first rounder if you find a guy you really like in the draft that you think could play alongside the Jays. But again, pretty sad that we're having this conversation here. It's not the conversation I wanted to have about the Celtics around this time of the year. And a lot of this is just going to come down to business, the stuff we
The
hate
dy
talking about.
the dynasties are dead, right?
Feels
It's
like it.
so tough. What's it? Seven straight year we're gonna have a new champion.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, but it's also kind of sad at the same time.
So let's talk real quick about the Nuggets, shall we? Speaking about dead
Yeah,
champions.
let's finish it off. Game seven. The Nuggets have pushed this all the way. OKC completely crumbled in that game six. Shea getting four fouls in the first half. J Dub's performance, like they were bad. That was, I mean, I guess element of it, the power of Denver's home floor. But I thought after getting that game five win, I thought OKC would be able to close this out. But the Nuggets
I
just
want
don't
to
want
say
to go
though,
away.
I know. I got to say this about J-Dub though, because he's gotten a lot of hate online, and some of it's deserved. Like he just has to hit shots. He has to hit shots. But let's talk about his playmaking. He's leading the team in assists. Like he is stirring the drink. He is creating opportunities, and he's getting good looks. It's just like it's just not falling. It's not falling. He's getting shots in rhythm. He's getting to his mid-range pull-up, a shot that we know that he's developed and been good at. And the process is good. It's just not falling. And it's tough to see that in a playoff scenario where you needed him to produce, but everything else about his game besides the shot literally going down is there. Like he played excellent defense. He's playmaking for others. He's rebounding well. And he's getting to his spots. It just hasn't gone down. And I think that this is a game seven that means everything to him to really respond to the noise and to do that on his home floor. And I think you got at the team just got to look at this and trusted their guy. They got to trust
He,
that he can do it.
I think that he will, but damn, he has to score. Outside of that huge, what was it? It was a game three he had. He's averaging 13.4 points per game
Yeah.
on 28% shooting and 7.7% from deep. That is atrocious. Like that is not okay. I know like he's still a young player. I'm not saying this is what he's going to be like forever,
Yeah.
but OKC need it from him now. He's their secondary scorer. He's their other 20 point per game scorer this whole season. They're gonna need him to step up because if he doesn't, the favor has to be with Jokic and Murray. Like so, like I think I was listening to the Hoop Collective the other day. The guys were talking like you could make the argument like this comes down to a battle between like Jokic and Murray versus Shea and J Dub. Like you could make that argument that's the battle. And right now, if that's what it's going to come
Yeah.
down to, you're
Yeah.
favoring Jokic and Murray all day long. But the big thing that's come out is Aaron Gordon is a
Yeah.
huge doubt. No one really talked about it. He pulled up at
Yeah.
the end of that game holding his hamstring, and no one really
Yeah.
said anything about it. And then the news dropped yesterday, and it was like, oh damn, yeah, that makes sense. You never like seeing a guy hold their hamstring because it's not just you don't just like tweak your hamstring. There's usually something. If you feel the need to start rubbing it and feeling it, you're kind of like, oh shit, this could be bad.
That's that's man, that's the thing about this whole playoffs. The whole playoffs. The
Yeah.
injuries have been terrible. The injuries have ruined the competition in so many games. And you could argue it wasn't a factor, Celtics and the Knicks, but it still was. Tatum's not there. Warriors, they don't get a fair chance at it. Cavs, can you argue that a fair chance at it? I don't think so. And there needs to be conversations in the offseason about if there's any possibility to reduce the number of games to somehow take load off of these guys. It's insane that we're already at this point. This should be an iconic game seven, but if Aaron Gordon is not there, they're not winning this game. Like Aaron Gordon is so important to this team in every facet of the game that they can't survive without him. That says a lot for him. And I I don't think we've had a chance to shout him out and how much better he's become as a shooter throughout this whole season. I did not think it was real. I was calling BS like month one, month two, month three, month four, All-Star break, even leading up to the playoffs. And I'm like, all right, let's see in the playoffs. They're gonna leave him alone and we'll see. And no, he's taking sidestep threes. He's taking pull-up threes off of a big on big pick and roll with Jokic. Like the shot making he's had when Michael Porter Jr. has his classic no shows a couple times a series. The way that Aaron Gordon has showed up has been just incredible. And they
I never
can't survive
thought
without him.
I never thought he'd get to this level as like an offensive contributor. Like I was he's gonna be always gonna be a great role player, a great defensive piece that's gonna like get dunks and be a good cutter and things like that. But what he's like the way he's like developed his game offensively and like the way he's hitting shots, like this is a level I didn't think he would get to. Like throughout these playoffs, he's basically been playing like a man possessed. Like even that game six, he didn't really play that well in terms of scoring the ball, but still had 7 assists. Like he's finding ways to make an impact. And like defensively, I think he does so much. Like this zone that Denver have played against OKC has worked really well. But I also think Gordon is so key to everything that they do defensively. The way he just kind of flies around, the way he's kind of always in and around kind of the biggest moments defensively that they have. Like you said, like it's going to be so tough to see them winning this game without him, but again, they still have Jokic. So I mean, in a one-off game, could you imagine Jokic pulling it out? Yeah, probably.
Probably. Um, let's I mean, we can focus on all the players here. I'll maybe we'll get into it after the game tomorrow, and hopefully it's a. I don't have a hope on either team. I think I'm excited either team makes it. The only hope I have is that Aaron Gordon actually plays tonight. But going back to the Thunder and what we've seen from them, a team that, if fully healthy, probably should have won the regular season win total. They were the best defense in basketball. I still predicted that they were going to make it to the final just because of how dominant they've been. How they're historically one of the best defenses ever. And that's not been enough because we know that they need more offense. They need more consistency. We're not getting it from J-Dub. Um, you really have to pray that Dort has a Dort game when he's in because he's not been consistent night in, night out. In a game seven series, you know we're going to get from Shea. Where do we think that they go with it? Obviously,
The push is there to kind of like Daniels kind of did it when in was it game four, I think he benched Dort for the whole fourth quarter because he just wasn't able to hit a shot and he wasn't really having that defensive impact and Wiggins was in there and Case and Wallace and guys like that. I think we could see them guys get some minutes early because those guys and like Caruso as well.
he's been
Like
fantastic.
Caruso's
He's been hitting big
scoring has
shots.
been amazing. Like that's been so important for the Thunder in this series. Like without him, they maybe have already lost this series. There's some of the like he's hit really important shots at important times. So I think we could see big minutes for the likes of Wallace and Wiggins and Caruso early in this matchup to see if they've got the shot because some of the other guys they've shown throughout the series that the shot's just not there for them. So it wouldn't be surprising if we see some significant minutes from them. We always talk about the OKC's depth. Wouldn't it just be would mean so much to see their depth be the key for them ultimately going to the Western Conference Finals?
It could be. I think they can't go as deep. They got to get someone going. They got to find out who's got the hot hand. They need to hit it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Isaiah Joe
yeah,
not getting any run at all. You know, it's tough. This is the problem. You have so many guys to go to that when things are tight and you're not just in a flow and you can't just keep cycling guys in and out. You need to have someone with a rhythm. It gets tough, and especially when your second best player is not. Um, and on the other on the other side of it, let's talk about Jamal Murray real quick because I I have to apologize because I was totally off. I thought Jamal would have such a tough time against this team. I thought he'd have. I mean, he was sick. He had a flu game, and he's going up against his team. He's going up against the best perimeter defenders in this league, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, dude. Like the fact he's averaging 22 and a half points a game against his team. The fact that all of his shots, he's not had a single like open. He's had maybe a couple shots here and there, just in the off chance offensive rebound kick out. He has been taking every fall away shot. He's been taking all the insane angle layups. He's been taking heavily contested threes. None of his shots are easy shots. And taking 18 shots a game, shooting 45% for the field, 37.5% from three on almost 7 attempts. And when you watch these games, you watch who is draped all over him. It's the best perimeter defenders in this league. It's the torture chamber. It's the Caruso. It's everything that you would expect to slow down a guy like this. And I just can't say enough how impressed I've been and just like jaw dropped with all the shots he's made despite the pressure that's on him. Especially Jokic has not been necessarily otherworldly in the way that we thought he would be.
Mhm.
What did we
In
say?
some games he has.
Well, we said what he'd have to average. He'd have to
He's had
average a
moments.
35-point triple double for them to win this
Like
series. But the other guys showed up.
he's had moments, Jokic, where he's been like absolutely insane, and also moments where he's looked exhausted and like that, like from like after like game one, like game two, three, and maybe even four, you could kind of like Jokic looked tired. He looked kind of like
Yeah.
he'd been beaten down, and then obviously game five, they ultimately didn't pull out the win, but what Jokic was doing in that game was insane. Like that pirouette 3 point shot that should never ever go in ever.
Yeah.
And like not it was this wasn't Steph Curry doing that. This was Nikola Jokic doing that. Like absolutely absurd. And yeah, like of course Murray. There's not many players who love the playoffs like Jamal Murray, and they the Denver's offense is just so good that they've made this OKC defense look pretty human
Yeah,
throughout this series. And like that's like we thought the OKC's defense is just too good. They'll just suffocate the Denver and they'll just frustrate them so much that that'll be enough for them to get over the line. That hasn't been the case at all. Denver's offense is still elite, is still one of the best in the league when things are clicking. When Murray and Jokic are on it, it's this offense is still so hard to stop, and that's why this series has been so good. It's been moments from OKC, and it's just been clever defense from Denver and elite offense from Denver.
yeah, yeah. I think that the rises from Denver have been incredibly impressive to overcome that. I think like a lot of what the scoring has come from Denver has just been contested, difficult shots, and it's not been necessarily defensive breakdowns from OKC. And another guy that we got to shout out is Christian Braun.
Yeah.
Dude, like the questions that everyone had for him replacing KCP, I gotta argue that he's been an upgrade compared to what we saw. Like he's not necessarily he's not the same movement shooter that KCP was. They don't have that element outside of MPJ now, but he's been consistent from there. And the rim runs he gets, the way he plays in transition, and the defense that he's shown has been has been nothing short of amazing. Like he's just been such an impact player for this team. Game 7, final prediction. Who's pulling it out?
My fear is that the Denver other guys cannot combine for 20 points again. So I think Strother, Watson, Westbrook, I don't think they can combine for 20 points off the bench. And I think OKC just squeaks over the line, but I believe Jokic and Murray have a whole lot to say about it.
Mm. I I want to be right, and I want the Thunder to make it all the way because I felt so strong about this team all season. But something about watching this Nuggets championship team regain that spark and Jamal Murray regain his magic, it's got me feeling like if this is a close game, I gotta vote. I gotta vote for the Nuggets. I gotta vote for Jokic and for Murray and just the body of work they put together for the course of their careers to close out games.
Yeah,
Unless Aaron Gordon is hurt, this is a big asterisk. If Aaron Gordon is out, this is the Thunder. The Nuggets do not work without him. But if he is in, I'm taking Nuggets. It's going to be a close game down the stretch, and you're going to see some magic from Murray. You're going to see some great shot making from Shea, but I still got to see it to believe it from the other guys from the Thunder to pull it out in the same way that I know that Murray and Jokic can do.
yeah, I think I agree with you there. If Gordon's in and it's a close game, I think that's where Denver will look to thrive, and vice versa. If Gordon's out, I think OKC can get over the line. But I guess final word then. Who do the Timberwolves want to face out of the two of these? I quietly think it's OKC. Is that crazy?
I think it's Nuggets.
Yeah.
I think it's Nuggets. And the reason being, I just think that there's so much more grief that the Thunder can cause Anthony Edwards defensively, and so much more that they could, that they'd had to deal with in this whole playoffs. That I would rather have to face the wrath of Jokic and Murray and a tired one at that than have to deal with a rejuvenated. If the Thunder make it through this hellish series against the former champions, they're able to overcome Murray at his peak here. Jokic, I, I think they're going to be super confident going to that series, and that's going to be a scary team to face.
How absolutely absurd would it be if the Timberwolves and Knicks ended up facing off in the
That
finals
has to be the
after the
funniest
trade,
matchup.
like after the
The
trade that went
funniest
down, like that
matchup.
would be absolutely
The funniest
crazy.
matchup.
But let's not we won't get carried away. We won't get ahead of ourselves. Game 7, of course, between OKC and Denver tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. We'll see how that goes down, and then hopefully we'll be back early next week to preview the Western Conference Finals, whether that be OKC and Timberwolves or Denver and the Timberwolves. But that's going to do it for today's show. Let's go, Knicks. Thank you all for joining us. And remember, we're everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.